It's week 1 of the 2019 NFL regular season, and the visiting Baltimore Ravens are set to take on the Miami Dolphins. It's Lamar Jackson's first game as the unquestioned starter at quarterback, and it's also the debut of wide receiver Marquise Brown, who was selected just 5 months earlier out of Oklahoma with the 25th overall pick in the NFL draft. Just how early would these two click? Well, it didn't take long for the football world to find out. Brown vaporized the Dolphins, taking his third and fourth career snaps to the house and finishing the game with 4 catches, 147 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. Ultimately, a nagging foot injury limited Brown from reaching his full potential his rookie year, but 2020 appeared promising. Brown reportedly gained 15 pounds of muscle, he and Jackson built rapport in the offseason, and the breakout seemed inevitable. But after another promising Week 1 performance, that sophomore breakout failed to materialize. What's poppin' YouTube? My name is Cole or Ham Analysis, and thank you so much for joining me for this football breakdown. In this video, we're going to be discussing Hollywood Brown's struggles last season and how those issues can be remedied. Before we begin, I'd really appreciate it if you could like the video and consider subscribing if you are interested in watching more in-depth football content. Thank you so much for doing that, and let's dive right back into the breakdown. One of the reasons why the Ravens fell in love with Brown during their evaluation process of him was his game-breaking speed. Although Brown never officially ran the 40-yard dash, he's been clocked in that sub-4.3 range. That speed can be a weapon against NFL secondaries, especially in man coverage, and Brown was known for burning defenses in college. Brown has continued to provide that deep threat ability in the NFL, and his Jets have produced some fantastic results. When that big play develops just like you drew it up and your designated speedster leaves defenders behind choking on his dust, it is certainly an enticing idea to try and create as many of those situations as possible. But in my opinion, I think the Ravens focused too much on that home run ability in 2020, and it severely limited Brown's production and the offense's overall ability to disrupt defenses. Baltimore is a run-first offense, and that doesn't appear to be changing anytime soon. So targets will already be limited if the ground game is priority 1. Combine that with the fact that Jackson can take off with the football anytime he deems fit, those looks through the air start turning into a precious commodity. And it didn't help that the Ravens had Brown run the go route on 27% of their passing plays, a number that was overwhelmingly dominant compared to the rest of his route tree. His route tree was far from balanced, and this was a guy the Ravens expected to be their wide receiver 1. Like I said, the big play potential is there, and it's likely offensive coordinator Greg Roman wanted as many opportunities as possible to launch into Hollywood deep. And that number wouldn't be as concerning to me if Jackson and Brown had connected on it consistently. But they didn't hit on it often. In fact, it was quite the opposite. And despite the 117 go routes Brown ran, he was only thrown to 12 times, reeling in just 3 of those looks. That means Brown caught a pass around 2.5% of the time he ran a go, which is a horrifying statistic considering it's the most popular route Roman dialed up for him. What those numbers tell me is that not only did Lamar Jackson have accuracy issues targeting Brown downfield, but defenses easily blanketed Brown in coverage because they already knew what he was running. This is what Jackson alluded to after the Ravens' Week 8 loss to the Steelers, telling Rich Eisen that defenses were calling out the offensive plays at the line. The offense's predictability continued to be its Achilles heel, and it plagued them again when Baltimore lost 2 weeks later on the road against the Patriots. Trying to get some points on the board before the first half ended, the Ravens called a play that ended that possibility. New England deployed a cover 1 man scheme which matched each receiver up with a defensive back and left a safety over the top. After the ball is snapped, Devin Duvernay and Willie Snead run identical curl routes on the left side of the field, while tight end Mark Andrews has a similar assignment toward the middle. That leaves Hollywood on the boundary with J.C. Jackson. I bet you can guess which route Brown is running by now. Lo and behold, Brown is full speed ahead on a go route, and J.C. Jackson is ready for it. He flips his hips almost immediately, which allows him to pace Brown down the sideline. Jackson is so confident the ball is going his way, he starts looking for it halfway through the route. The safety, Devin McCourty, is also there for extra insurance, having read Lamar's eyes from the very beginning, but Jackson doesn't need him. He tracks the ball the entire way and essentially boxes out Brown to make the interception. This is a perfect play to illustrate the type of creative rut that lost the Ravens games, because the lack of ingenuity allowed defenses to gain an advantage simply by studying its tendencies. And it wasn't just go routes Jackson and Brown struggled to connect on, it was all types of deep routes. It seemed like every time Brown got a step on his man, Jackson couldn't hit him. Passes sailed ahead of and behind Brown all season long, and by the end, Brown ranked 7th in the league with 794 unrealized air yards. It was clear the delivery was off. The best example I could find was in the second quarter during the Ravens' Week 11 loss to the Tennessee Titans. It's 2nd and 8 and Brown is running a post route against the cover 3 look by the Titans defense. This means Brown will likely have a one-on-one matchup with the safety Amani Hooker, and he ends up getting it. Brown quickly eats up the cushion and forces the safety to flip his hips and begin to run with him. Once Brown is over the top of the safety, he cuts on his brake and begins to look for the ball. However, Jackson waits a little too long to make the throw to Brown. As Brown crosses into the end zone, he's forced to slow up and wait for Jackson's pass, giving Hooker time to catch up and make a play on the ball. When the ball finally arrives, Hooker is there to break up the pass. If Jackson anticipates the break by Brown instead of waiting on the inside movement, then this play has a better chance to be successful. In Week 17, Jackson showed improvement in that area of his game on a second quarter touchdown to Brown. The Bengals are in cover 0 alignment, and Jackson knows this when the safety drops down to cover Andrews covering the drag route. Once Jackson sees this, his eyes shift immediately to Hollywood, who is about to cross over his man on the post route. Jackson doesn't hesitate this time. He trusts his judgment and fires toward the end zone. The ball is a little bit low, but the throw is on time and he delivers Brown a catchable ball. Although it was only an 18-yard completion and the two whiffed on plays much larger than this one, it definitely bodes well for Brown and Jackson's chemistry next season. The routes being shorter aren't necessarily a bad thing either, since Brown definitely needs to be involved in that area as well if the Ravens want him to be successful. Brown has shown he can be a capable short game piece in the passing attack, and he was very effective on dig routes and on slants. Proving he can be a problem in that area of the field for him will be key to opening up looks outside, as defenses will be forced to play him as something more than just a vertical threat. One other area of improvement from Brown was drops. He had 7 of them in 2020, and they didn't help his case for more targets. Brown also catches a lot of balls with his body instead of with his hands, and it doesn't help that his catch radius isn't the biggest either. I felt like a combination of these two factors contributed to the high total of muffed receptions last season. In April, the Ravens took another receiver in the first round, Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. Bateman is a fluid route runner who demonstrates good hands on tape. But if the Ravens don't make changes to their offense and use him creatively, then his production will suffer in a similar fashion to how Brown's did in 2020. I hope you enjoyed learning about Hollywood Brown and his role in the Ravens offense. After watching this breakdown, how do you feel about Brown's ability to improve in year 3, and what changes do the Ravens need to make to help him shine? If you made it this far and are interested in more in-depth football content, then consider subscribing and giving a like on this video. Your support is greatly appreciated, and I welcome any and all comments regarding the content discussed in this video and any general tips or suggestions. You can also follow me on all social platforms at HamAnalysis for bite-sized football insight. Once again, my name is Cole, and remember to stay ambitious out there, and I'm looking forward to our next discussion. See you soon.